You're dead to this family. Diana's words echoed in my design studio, her mascara-streaked face a stark contrast to the pristine wedding invitations scattered across my desk. The QR codes I'd embedded in each delicate border pattern gleamed under the fluorescent lights like tiny digital bombs that had already detonated. I kept my hands steady on my laptop keyboard, not looking up from the screen displaying the chaos unfolding across social media. I've been dead to this family for years, I replied, my voice surprisingly calm. The only difference is now everyone knows why. She slammed my laptop shut, nearly catching my fingers. The sound reverberated through the studio like a gunshot. How could you do this to me? On my wedding day? Your wedding day? I finally looked up, meeting her tear-filled eyes. The one where your fiancé was planning to spend the night with your maid of honor while you walked down the aisle? The color drained from her face. Through the studio's large windows, I could see people gathering on the street below, phones in hand, probably drawn by the local news vans that had started arriving an hour ago. The QR code scandal was trending nationally now. My sister's perfect life had unraveled in less than 24 hours, and I was the one holding the thread. Flashback 3 months earlier. The Thanksgiving dinner. I should have known it would end this way the moment I walked into my parents' house that November evening. The dining room was set with grandmother's best china, the delicate blue and white pattern that only came out for special occasions. Diana sat at the head of the table like a queen holding court, her recent promotion to marketing director at Morrison and Associates being celebrated with the kind of fanfare usually reserved for royal engagements. "Sarah, sweetheart, come sit here," my mother Margaret called, patting the chair beside her. But not the one next to Diana. Never that one. That seat was reserved for Tyler, Diana's architect boyfriend who'd been conspicuously absent from the last 3 family gatherings. I'd spent 2 hours that morning baking Mom's favorite pumpkin cheesecake, using the recipe grandmother had passed down. It sat untouched on the kitchen counter while Diana's store-bought pie from the upscale bakery downtown took center stage. "So, my father Robert said," carving the turkey with the precision he usually reserved for legal briefs. Diana was telling us about the Henderson account. "Impressive work, honey." Diana beamed, her smile radiant under the dining room chandelier. "It's the largest campaign Morrison's ever landed. The client specifically requested me after seeing my portfolio." She paused, letting the words sink in. "They said my vision was exactly what modern marketing needed." I pushed the sweet potatoes around my plate, remembering my own recent success, a complete rebrand for a tech startup that had just gone public. But that news had gotten buried under Diana's promotion announcement, just like my art school acceptance had been overshadowed by her college graduation, just like my first solo gallery show had been forgotten the day she'd gotten engaged to David before Tyler, before Marcus, before Connor. "And how's your little design hobby going, Sarah?" my mother asked, the word hobby loaded with more condescension than a 3-syllable word should be able to carry. "It's a business, Mom. I have my own studio downtown." I'd said these exact words at least 50 times over the past decade. They never seemed to stick. "Oh, right. Of course." Margaret waved her hand dismissively. "I keep forgetting. It's just so different from a real corporate position." Diana leaned forward, her engagement ring catching the light. "Actually, I have an announcement." The table went silent. Even Dad stopped mid-carve. Tyler proposed. The dining room erupted in congratulations and champagne toasts. Margaret actually squealed, a sound I hadn't heard since Diana's high school graduation. Robert clasped Tyler's hand in a firm handshake when he arrived 20 minutes later, apologizing for his lateness with a story about a client emergency that sounded rehearsed. Through it all, I sat in my chair, watching my family orbit around Diana's happiness while I remained invisible. The pumpkin cheesecake stayed in the kitchen, forgotten like my presence at this table. "Oh, Sarah," Diana turned to me, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "I've been thinking. For the wedding stationery, you could design everything. The save the dates, invitations, programs. It would be your gift to us." The room fell quiet. Even Tyler looked uncomfortable. "Diana, that's quite a lot of work," Robert said quietly, but Margaret immediately overruled him. "Don't be silly, Robert. Sarah has plenty of time. It's not like she has board meetings to attend or quarterly reports to file. She smiled at me expectantly. You'd love to do this for your sister, wouldn't you? It would be such good exposure for your business. Internal monologue, the drive home. I replayed that dinner conversation during the 40-minute drive back to my apartment. Each word felt like a small cut. Hobby. Plenty of time. Good exposure. As if 10 years of building my client base, winning design awards, and maintaining a studio in one of the city's most competitive markets was just an extended arts and crafts session. My phone buzzed with a text from Diana. So excited about the wedding designs. Pinterest board coming your way. Think elegant, timeless, sophisticated. The Ashworth family has standards. The Ashworth family. Tyler's old money Boston lineage that traced back to the Mayflower. Another detail for Diana to polish her image with. I pulled into my parking space behind the converted warehouse that housed my studio. The building was split between creative businesses, a photographer on the second floor, a jewelry designer in the basement, and my graphic design studio taking up the entire third floor. It wasn't a corporate office in a glass tower downtown, but it was mine. My phone rang as I climbed the stairs. Chris, my closest friend and the curator at the Meridian Gallery. Let me guess, he said without preamble. Family dinner didn't go well. Diana's engaged. Guess who gets to design the wedding suite for free? Please tell me you told them to shove their good exposure somewhere creative. I fumbled with my keys. I said yes. Silence. Then, Sarah, what the hell? Flashback of building the plan. Studio nights. The first thing I learned about wedding design was that it brings out the worst in people. Over the next 3 weeks, Diana sent me 17 different Pinterest boards, changed the color scheme 5 times, and requested fonts that conveyed more sophistication than Arial Black apparently possessed. The borders need more flourish, she texted at 2 a.m. Tyler's mother mentioned that their family crest has intricate detailing. Can you incorporate elements that speak to generational elegance? I stared at my computer screen, the cursor blinking in the empty design document. Outside my studio windows, the city slept peacefully, unaware that I was crafting something that would detonate Diana's carefully constructed world. The QR code idea came to me during one of Tyler's surprise visits to the architectural firm next door. I was working late, the studio dark except for my monitor's glow, when I heard his voice in the hallway. I miss you too, V, he was saying. Tomorrow night? Diana has that wedding planning session with the caterer. She'll be busy all evening. V, Victoria Hart, Diana's maid of honor and best friend since college. The same Victoria who'd been traveling for work every time there was a group gathering. The same Victoria whose Instagram had gone mysteriously private 3 months ago, right around the time Diana and Tyler got engaged. I grabbed my phone and started recording, then felt sick about it. But the conversation continued. Hotel names, time slots, elaborate lies about business meetings and family obligations. By the time Tyler's footsteps faded down the hallway, I had 20 minutes of audio that painted a very clear picture. Chris found me the next morning surrounded by crumpled coffee cups and design printouts. You look like you haven't slept. I haven't. I showed him the QR code I'd embedded in the invitation border. To the casual observer, it looked like an ornate pattern of delicate swirls and flourishes that spoke to the generational elegance Diana had requested. But scan it with any smartphone, and it led to a private photo album. Sarah, this is insane. You're talking about nuclear-level family destruction. I pulled up the album on my laptop. Screenshots of text messages between Tyler and Victoria. Hotel receipts. Photos from their weekend getaway to the Hamptons while Diana thought Victoria was at a fashion conference. She's planning to marry him, Chris. She's planning to build a life with someone who's been lying to her for months. And Victoria? Victoria is supposed to be her maid of honor. But this isn't just telling Diana the truth. This is telling everyone. I saved the design file and looked at him. Maybe everyone needs to know. Flashback, the production process. The print shop on Newbury Street specialized in high-end wedding stationery. I'd worked with them before on client projects. They had the best letterpressing equipment in the city and could handle the gold foil detailing Diana had insisted upon. Beautiful work, the printer said, examining the proofs. The border pattern is particularly intricate. Very elegant. If he only knew what those elegant swirls concealed. I ordered 300 save the dates, each one individually pressed with gold foil, each one carrying its hidden payload. Diana had provided the guest list of Boston society's finest, plus family and close friends. Old money, new money, and the kind of people who made their living managing other people's money. When do you need them? Next week. The engagement party is Saturday. The printer nodded. Rush job, but we can do it. Premium rush pricing, of course. I paid with my personal credit card. Diana's wedding gift was about to cost me $3,000. But watching her world crumble would be priceless. Flashback the discovery. Audio evidence. I thought I was clever, setting up the QR code, gathering photographic evidence. But the universe handed me something better. A live recording session. Tyler came by the studio the following week, ostensibly to check on invitation progress. But his phone call in the hallway gave me everything I needed. Babe, I can't keep doing this, he was saying, his voice carrying through the thin walls. Diana's getting suspicious. Yesterday she asked why I'm always working late on the same days you have client dinners. Victoria's voice was a tinny whisper through the phone speaker. She doesn't know anything. Diana's too busy with wedding planning to notice what's right in front of her. But the wedding's in 2 months. After that, we'll figure it out. Maybe she'll be too busy being the perfect wife to notice you're never home. They laughed. Actually laughed about deceiving my sister. I crept closer to the door, phone recording everything. I love you, V. I know I should call off the wedding, but you know how my family feels about Diana. They think she's perfect for the image they want to maintain. And I think you're perfect exactly as you are. Even if you're cheating on your fiancé with her best friend. More laughter. I had enough audio evidence to destroy 3 lives. The question was, should I? Present day, the confrontation continues. You recorded private conversations, Diana accused, her voice hoarse from crying. You violated privacy laws. I recorded conversations in a public hallway where Tyler chose to conduct his affairs planning. She grabbed the printed invitations from my desk, studying the QR codes she'd approved just days earlier. How long have you known? About Tyler and Victoria. 3 weeks. About Tyler being a coward who'd rather cheat than break an engagement his parents arranged for social climbing purposes? That became clear pretty quickly. Diana sank into my client chair, her perfect posture finally crumbling. For the first time in years, she looked human. Vulnerable. Like the sister who used to share her Halloween candy with me when we were kids. Why didn't you just tell me? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. When has this family ever believed me over you? When you said I broke mom's vase, who got punished? When you claimed I cheated off your homework, who got grounded? When you told everyone I made up stories about David hitting on me at your graduation party, that was different. Was it? Or was it just easier to make me the liar than admit you'd chosen another winner? My phone buzzed against the desk. Chris, probably watching the news coverage. The scandal had made local television. Designer's sister exposes wedding fraud through hidden QR codes. My 15 minutes of fame, courtesy of Diana's poor judgment in men. Flashback the printing day. The save the dates came out perfectly. Each gold foil accent caught the light like a promise of elegance. Each carefully embedded QR code lay hidden in the decorative borders like a spider waiting in its web. Diana picked up the first batch personally, arriving at my studio with her usual dramatic flair. Let me see them, she demanded, not bothering with pleasantries. I handed her the box of finished pieces. She lifted each invitation to the light, examining the gold foil work with the intensity of a jeweler appraising diamonds. The quality is acceptable, she said finally. Though I still think the font could have been more sophisticated. I'm glad it meets your standards. Tyler's parents are particular about presentation. They've been planning society weddings for 3 generations. She carefully placed the invitations back in their box. These go out tomorrow morning. No mistakes, Sarah. The Ashworth reputation depends on perfection. I watched her leave, carrying 300 pieces of perfectly crafted explosive devices. Tomorrow morning, the countdown would begin. Flashback of the deployment, I mailed the save the dates myself, driving to 3 different post offices to ensure even distribution. Each envelope felt heavy with significance. Each stamp seemed to pulse with anticipation. The engagement party was tomorrow night. By this time next week, Diana's carefully curated life would be in ruins. Chris met me for dinner that evening, choosing a restaurant far from Diana's usual haunts. Last chance to reconsider, he said, not touching his food. I've been considering for 29 years. I took a sip of wine. I considered when she convinced our parents that art school was a waste of money while they paid for her MBA. I considered when she accidentally scheduled her engagement party the same weekend as my gallery opening. I considered when she introduced me to her friends as my sister who does cute little drawings. This is different, Sarah. This is permanent. I looked around the restaurant, couples sharing intimate dinners, families celebrating small moments, friends laughing over shared stories. Normal people living authentic lives. So is living a lie. Present day, the fallout, Diana's phone buzzed incessantly on my desk. Text messages, missed calls, voicemail notifications piling up faster than she could read them. The Ashworths are furious, she said, scrolling through the chaos. Tyler's father is threatening legal action. Against whom? Truth isn't legally actionable. Against you. For invasion of privacy, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. I pulled up the metadata on my computer. Everything I documented happened in public spaces or was voluntarily shared on social media. Tyler and Victoria chose their locations. They chose their indiscretions. I just provided the frame. The studio door burst open. Tyler stormed in, his usually perfect hair disheveled, his face flushed with anger and panic. What the hell is wrong with you? He shouted. Do you have any idea what you've done? Diana looked up from her phone. Tyler? I thought you were at your parents' house doing damage control. He stopped short, seeming to notice her for the first time. Diana, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain why you've been sleeping with my best friend for 4 months? Can you explain why you proposed to me when you were planning a romantic getaway with Victoria? Can you explain why you thought I was too stupid to figure it out eventually? It wasn't supposed to happen this way, he said lamely. What way was it supposed to happen? Were you going to tell me on our wedding night? On our first anniversary? When we had kids? I watched this confrontation from behind my computer screen, feeling oddly detached from the destruction I'd caused. This wasn't my conversation anymore. It was between a cheating fiance and the woman whose trust he'd betrayed. I loved you, Diana said quietly. I actually loved you. I know. I know you did. And I tried. God, Dana, I tried to love you back. But you loved her more. Tyler couldn't meet her eyes. I'm sorry. No. Diana stood up, her composure returning like armor sliding back into place. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. Flashback, the parents' response. My phone started ringing at 6 and the day after the scandal broke. Mom first, then Dad, then a parade of relatives who'd managed to get their hands on the save the dates and scan the QR codes themselves. I let them all go to voicemail. Margaret's message was predictably dramatic. Sarah Elizabeth, what have you done? Diana is hysterical. The Ashworths are beside themselves. Your father's clients are calling asking about the family scandal. Fix this immediately. Dad's message was quieter, but somehow more devastating. Sweetheart, I know you had your reasons, but this is a lot of collateral damage. Please call us. We need to talk. I didn't call back. Instead, I went to my studio and worked on client projects, logos for small businesses, branding for startups, authentic work for people who valued honesty. Chris brought coffee and newspapers around noon. The scandal had made the metro section. Wedding scandal rocks Boston society. Designer's sister exposes affair through QR code. You're famous, he said, not sounding particularly happy about it. Infamous, more like. Same thing in our industry. He sat down across from my desk. I've had 3 calls this morning. People want to hire the designer who embedded secrets in wedding invitations. I looked up from my computer. Seriously? Sarah, you've accidentally revolutionized wedding stationery. Truth in design is going to be the next big trend. Mark my words. Present day, unexpected visitors. A knock on the studio door interrupted Tyler's stammering apologies. My father stood in the doorway, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Dad, he took in the scene, Diana crying in my client chair, Tyler pacing near the windows, me sitting calmly at my computer like the eye of a hurricane. Tyler, he said quietly, I think you should leave. Mr. Chen, I can explain. I don't think there's anything left to explain, son. Diana, would you like me to drive you home? She shook her head. I need to talk to Sarah first. Tyler started to protest, but Dad's courtroom voice cut through his objections. Now would be a good time for you to call your attorney. From what I've seen online, you're going to need one. After Tyler left, Dad pulled up another chair. Well, he said finally, this is a hell of a mess. I suppose it is. Your mother's in hysterics. She thinks the neighbors are judging us. Are they? Dad laughed, a sound I rarely heard. Probably. Though half of them are asking if you're available to design their next party invitations. Diana looked up from her phone. This isn't funny, Dad. No, honey, it's not. Your heart's been broken, your trust has been violated, and your wedding's been canceled. But that's not Sarah's fault. She could have told me privately. Would you have believed her? Dad's question hung in the air. If Sarah had come to you with photos and recordings and told you Tyler was cheating, what would you have done? Diana was quiet for a long moment. I would have thought she was jealous. Exactly. So she made sure you couldn't ignore the truth. By humiliating me in front of everyone I know? By preventing you from marrying someone who doesn't deserve you. Dad reached over and took Diana's hand. Sweetheart, I know this hurts. But imagine if you'd found out after the wedding. After you'd built a life with him. After kids. Flashback the realization. Victoria's confession. The day before the save the dates were scheduled to arrive, Victoria called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Sarah, we need to talk. Do we? About Tyler. About Diana. About everything. We met at a coffee shop in Cambridge, neutral territory far from both our usual neighborhoods. Victoria looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes, her usually perfect hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. I know you know, she said without preamble. Know what? About Tyler and me. You've been watching us. At the firm, at the hotel. I saw you that day you were meeting a client at the Fairmont. I hadn't been meeting a client. I'd been following them. How long? I asked. 4 months. It started at Dana's birthday party. Tyler was drunk. I was lonely. It was supposed to be a one-time thing. But it wasn't. Victoria shook her head. We kept telling ourselves we'd end it. After the engagement party. After Diana booked the venue. After the save the dates went out. There was always another milestone to get past first. And now? Now the save the dates are about to be mailed. And I can't bear watching Diana plan a wedding to a man who calls my name when he sleeps with her. I stared at her. He what? Last week. Diana told me Tyler said my name during. You know. She laughed about it. Said he must have been thinking about work stress with the Watson account I'm handling. My stomach turned. Diana was creating excuses for her Phoenix betrayal, rationalizing away evidence of his infidelity. Are you going to tell her? Victoria asked. I think she needs to know. She'll hate us both. She should hate you both. You're betraying her every day you let this continue. Victoria started crying then. Ugly tears that ruined her makeup. I love him. I know that's awful to say, but I do. And he loves me. But he won't leave Diana because his parents adore her. So you'll what? Be his mistress forever? Smile at Diana during the wedding ceremony? Hold her babies while you're sleeping with their father? I don't know. The outburst drew stares from other customers. Victoria lowered her voice. I don't know what to do. I stood up to leave. I do. Present day, the media circus. By afternoon, News fans had tripled outside my building. Social media had transformed the scandal into a viral phenomenon. Kirkoder Revenge was trending nationally. Design blogs were calling it revolutionary fusion of analog and digital revelation. My phone rang constantly. Reporters, podcast hosts, design magazines, even a producer from a reality TV show about family drama. I ignored them all and kept working. Chris arrived around 3 p.m. with sandwiches and updates. The story's gone international. BBC just picked it up. Apparently, this is how America does family dysfunction. Great. I'm representing the country now. Also, I have news. The Meridian Gallery wants to do a show. Truth in Design, Hidden Messages in Plain Sight. They're offering you a solo exhibition. I looked up from my monitor. Based on humiliating my sister, based on innovative integration of technology and traditional design. The QR code thing is just the hook. Diana spoke from the client chair where she'd been sitting for hours. Do it. Diana, no, seriously. Do the show. If my misery is going to be famous, at least let it showcase actual talent. She stood up, gathering her purse. I need to go deal with the rest of my life. Cancel vendors, return gifts, figure out how to face my friends again. Diana, wait. She paused at the door. I owe you an apology. Not for exposing Tyler, you did me a favor there. But for the years of treating your career like a hobby. For making you feel invisible. For taking you for granted. I could have handled this differently. Could you have? Really? She gave me a sad smile. You spent years trying to make me see you. Maybe this was the only way to make everyone see the truth. Flashback growing up invisible, Diana and I were born 3 years apart, which might as well have been a generation gap in our family. She walked early, talked early, excelled at everything she touched. I was the quiet one, the one who drew pictures while she gave presentations, who preferred books while she organized social events. Our parents didn't mean to play favorites. Margaret just connected more easily with Diana's outgoing personality and ambitious drive. Robert appreciated Diana's analytical mind and corporate aspirations. She was following in his successful footsteps. I was different, creative, sensitive. My elementary school art teacher called me gifted, but that got lost somewhere between Diana's student council presidency and her debate team championships. By high school, I learned to be content with being the sister who did our stuff. Diana was the one with real potential. I was just Sarah. Art school changed me. For 4 years, I lived in a world where creativity was valued, where different ways of seeing were celebrated. I found my voice through design, learning to communicate truths that words couldn't capture. But coming home for holidays meant shrinking back into the role of Diana's less successful sister. The one with the cute hobby. The one who was still single. The one who couldn't quite figure out how to make art pay the bills like a real job should. Present day, unexpected support. The afternoon brought an unexpected visitor, Tyler's mother, Elizabeth Ashworth. She appeared in my studio doorway like a storm cloud in Chanel. Ms. Chen. Mrs. Ashworth. She glanced around my studio, the design awards on the walls, the sophisticated equipment, the evidence of a serious professional operation. I came to apologize. I'm not sure that's necessary. Oh, it absolutely is. She sat down without invitation. I knew. The words hung between us like a confession. You knew about Tyler and Victoria? I suspected. When someone calls their mistress's name during family dinners, it becomes rather obvious. Elizabeth's voice was crisp, matter of fact. But Tyler was marrying Diana. Beautiful, accomplished Diana from a respectable family. The kind of wife who would look perfect at charity galas and cocktail parties. So you said nothing. I said nothing. And that makes me complicit in this disaster. She gestured toward my computer, where news articles about the scandal were still loading. You did what I should have done months ago. You told the truth. Why didn't you? Elizabeth was quiet for a moment. Because Diana loved my son. And I wanted to believe he would grow into loving her back. People do change, after marriages, after children. I thought perhaps, but he didn't. No, he didn't. She stood, smoothing her skirt. The Ashworth family will not be pursuing legal action against you. In fact, I'm rather impressed by your resourcefulness. Before leaving, she paused at the door. That QR code was genius, you know. Elegant, subtle, devastating. If you ever need a reference for clients, you may use my name. Flashback the gallery opening. 6 months later, the Meridian Gallery's Truth in Design exhibition opened on a rainy Thursday evening in May. The main piece was a massive print of Diana's wedding invitation, the QR code magnified to show its intricate integration with the decorative elements. But the exhibition was more than just a scandal. Chris had curated a collection of my work spanning 10 years, logos that told stories, websites that revealed company values, packaging that honestly represented products inside. It's about authenticity in design, I explained to a reporter, making invisible truths visible through visual language. My parents arrived early, looking nervous but determined. Margaret studied each piece carefully, reading every description placard. I never realized, she said finally. All these years, you were trying to tell us something, and we weren't listening. Dad squeezed my shoulder. We're listening now. Diana appeared just before closing time, slipping in quietly while the crowd was thinning. She'd moved to Chicago 2 months earlier, taking a position with a smaller firm, but one that valued innovation over traditional prestige. She stood in front of the wedding invitation display for a long time. Strange seeing it like this, she said when I joined her. Regrets? About Tyler? God, no. About us? She turned to look at me. I wasted so many years treating you like competition instead of family. We both made mistakes. I made more. She smiled, and for the first time in years, it looked genuine. Victoria sent me a message last week. She's in therapy. Tyler's already with someone new, his secretary, because he's unimaginatively predictable. And you? I'm learning to be alone without being lonely. Turns out I'd never really tried that before. We walked through the gallery together, pausing at each piece. At a collection of logos I designed for small businesses, Diana stopped. This one, she pointed to a design for a family bakery. Tell me what it means. I explained how the typography reflected the family's immigrant journey, how the colors represented tradition passed through generations, how the circular logo suggested continuity and warmth. Diana listened intently. I want to understand. Really understand. Not just pretend to be supportive while secretly thinking it's just pretty pictures. Present day, 1 year later, the anniversary of what would have been Diana's wedding day passed quietly. I spent it working on a new project designs for a nonprofit that helped women leaving abusive relationships. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was designing hope for women escaping lies while my own family continued healing from the truth I'd exposed. Diana called that evening from Chicago. Happy and wedding day, she said. That's morbid, but accurate. I want to thank you again, Sarah, for saving me from a life built on lies. You've thanked me enough. Have I? Because I calculated it. If I'd married Tyler, if I'd found out about Victoria after 5 years of marriage, after children. I did the math. You saved me a minimum of $100,000 in divorce attorney fees alone. I laughed despite myself, always thinking about the bottom line. Some things don't change, but some things do. I met someone. Diana, not like that. I mean, maybe eventually like that. But right now, I just mean I met someone honest. Someone who doesn't need me to be perfect to feel worthy of love. After we hung up, I walked to my studio window and looked out at the city. The lights twinkled like secrets waiting to be revealed, like QR codes embedded in the darkness of night. My phone buzzed with a message from Chris. New client wants to meet tomorrow. Something about truth-telling design for their company rebrand. You've created a whole new market niche. I smiled and typed back. Send them the portfolio with the wedding invitation as the centerpiece. Some truths are worth telling, no matter the cost. Some designs are worth the precision they require. And some families are worth saving from their own carefully constructed lies. I went back to my drafting table, pulled out a fresh sheet of paper, and began sketching. There were more truths to tell, more lies to elegantly expose, more beauty to create from the complicated mess of human authenticity. After all, that's what good design is about, revealing what's already there, just hidden beneath the surface. Epilogue of the letter. 2 years later, the letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, mixed in with the usual bills and design supply catalogs. The return address was unfamiliar, a law firm in Chicago I'd never heard of. My first instinct was panic. Despite Elizabeth Ashworth's assurance, I'd always worried that Tyler's family might pursue legal action once the media attention died down. But inside was something completely unexpected. A handwritten note from Victoria. Dear Sarah, it began in careful script. I know I'm probably the last person you expected to hear from. I also know you have every right to throw this away without reading it. But I need to say some things, and I'm finally healthy enough to say them properly. I poured coffee and settled at my kitchen table, morning sunlight streaming through the windows of my new apartment. The QR code scandal had brought enough business that I'd been able to move out of the studio building and into a proper home with space to separate work and life. First, I'm sorry. Not the shallow, self-serving kind of sorry Tyler offered when everything fell apart. I'm sorry for betraying Diana, who had been nothing but kind to me since college. I'm sorry for participating in lies that could have destroyed her future. And I'm sorry for putting you in a position where you felt the only option was to expose us publicly. I've been in therapy for 18 months now. My therapist says I need to take responsibility for my choices without expecting forgiveness. So that's what I'm trying to do. The affair wasn't something that just happened. It was a series of decisions I made, knowing they were wrong because I was too cowardly to face the truth about myself. You want to know something ironic? I always envied Diana. Not just for Tyler's attention, but for having a sister. Someone who would always be in her corner, even when she was being impossible. I'm an only child. I never understood what that kind of loyalty looked like until I watched you destroy your relationship with your family to save Diana from a terrible mistake. That's real love, Sarah. Painful, complicated, but real. I'm writing this because Diana and I had coffee last month. Yes, we're speaking again. It took 2 years, but we're slowly rebuilding something honest. She told me about your parents coming to the gallery show, about your father finally seeing your work properly. She said your mother even bought one of your pieces, the one about finding voice in silence. Diana also told me you've never responded to Tyler's attempts to contact you. Good. He still doesn't understand what he did wrong. He married his secretary 6 months after your revelation, and according to mutual friends, he's already cheating on her too. Some people never learn. But here's why I'm really writing. Diana showed me the designs you did for her company's rebrand. The way you captured their values in visual form: honesty, innovation, resilience. You didn't just design a logo. You designed a promise about who they are. I have a confession. I kept one of the save the dates. Not because I wanted to remember the affair, but because I wanted to remember the moments someone had the courage to tell the truth when everyone else was living a lie. It's framed in my office, next to my therapy degree. Yes, I'm a therapist now, specializing in relationship honesty and communication. The irony isn't lost on me either. But perhaps people who've lived through deception are best equipped to help others recognize it. I have clients now who are where Diana was, engaged to people who are lying to them, building futures on foundations of dishonesty. When I tell them about the QR code scandal without names, of course, they listen. Sometimes they investigate. Sometimes they leave. Sometimes they save themselves years of pain. Your design didn't just expose one lie, Sarah. It's been exposing lies ever since. That wedding invitation is teaching people to look more carefully, to trust their instincts, to value truth over comfort. Diana said you're working on a book, Truth in Visual Language: How Design Reveals What Words Hide. I want you to know that pre-orders are already strong among therapists. We understand the power of showing people what they can't yet see in themselves. I don't expect a response to this letter. I just wanted you to know that the ripples from that QR code are still spreading, still helping people choose truth over beautiful lies. With gratitude and respect, Victoria, P.S. Diana's engaged again. To someone who actually deserves her this time. Someone who knew about the QR code scandal before their first date and said it made him admire her strength in rebuilding afterward. She's planning to ask you to design the invitations. She hopes you'll say yes this time for joy instead of revenge. Final scene: the studio. Present day. I folded the letter carefully and walked to my studio, which now occupied the entire top floor of a converted textile factory. The space was flooded with natural light, walls covered with my latest work, campaigns for ethical companies, logos for nonprofits, designs that helped organizations tell their authentic stories. The infamous wedding invitation hung in a place of honor, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Next to it, a new piece was taking shape on my drafting table: preliminary sketches for Diana's real wedding invitations. This time, there would be no hidden codes, no secrets embedded in decorative borders, just elegant typography announcing a celebration of genuine love, honest communication, and second chances. My phone buzzed with a text from Chris. Museum of Design wants to acquire the QR code piece for their permanent collection. They're calling it a pivotal moment in truth-telling design. I typed back, only if the proceeds go to Diana's nonprofit. She'd started an organization helping women leave deceptive relationships, partly inspired by her own experience. Another message appeared, this one from Diana herself. Mom wants to know if you're bringing anyone to the wedding. I told her you'd bring yourself, and that would be enough. But in case you're interested, Tyler's therapist has a cute brother who's also in therapy and knows the whole story. Apparently, baggage doesn't scare him. I laughed out loud. Diana had developed a sense of humor about the whole situation, probably the healthiest way to move forward. Tell Mom, I'll bring my camera. Someone should document what an honest wedding looks like. Sarah, came her quick reply. Thank you. For everything. Even the QR code. Especially the QR code. I set my phone aside and returned to the wedding invitation sketches. This time, the only thing hidden in the design would be the love and skill I put into crafting something beautiful and true. Outside my studio windows, the city hummed with life, millions of people navigating relationships, making choices between comfort and honesty, between pretty lies and difficult truths. Somewhere among them, someone was probably scanning a QR code from a wedding invitation, discovering a secret that would change their life. I smiled and picked up my pencil. Truth, it turned out, was the most beautiful design element of all.